Welcome on into the Wolverine recruiting show. We are back. Clayton Sayfie here with EJ Holland, who looks like he has a virtual background, but he's on his porch there in Chicago. We're going to talk Big House Barbecue, storylines. We are going to talk about EJ's recent Detroit swing, going out to see all of Michigan's top in-state targets. And we are also going to discuss Devante Miles, three-star defensive tackle from the state, River Rouge High, 2022, former Michigan commit who decommitted this week. So we'll get into that just a little bit, what went down there. We'll talk about that at the end. We'll start with the Big House Barbecue, the top storyline of the week. Michigan, hosted plenty of visitors in June. They had Victor's Weekend, which was kind of that big premier weekend with a bunch of official visitors. This is an unofficial visit weekend coming up for the Big House Barbecue, which has been a major hit in recent years. Started under Brady Hoke and Jim Harbaugh carrying that tradition on. But a bunch of guys unofficially visiting Michigan this weekend. We're going to have a ton of coverage from that. A lot of things in the pipeline. But I guess what are some things that, EJ, people should look out for heading into the weekend?
Yeah, I think some key storylines are one, the defensive tackles. Michigan's getting in Dion Walker and Kenneth Grant for official visit or unofficial visits this weekend for the barbecue. With Dion Walker, this is definitely a prospect they can close with. I think it would actually be a little disappointing if they come out of the weekend and don't close with him. He's been a Michigan lean for the last couple of months. He was on campus a couple of times last month. He's a Cass Tech kid. I think all signs point to Michigan closing with him. They just have a good weekend. On the flip side of the coin, you have Kenneth Grant, who's just a three-star prospect, but he's really blown up this summer. Ohio State offered and hosted him for an official visit. And that's kind of really the key with Kenneth out of Merrillville, actually 45 minutes outside of Chicago, so on the Indiana-Illinois border. But the big thing with Kenneth is, how hard is Ohio State really going to push for him? I think that's going to be a big thing. Right now, I think Michigan's recruiting him a little harder. They identified him pretty early, which I think made an impact with him. And I think they can really move the needle. He visited unofficially in June. He's on campus this weekend. He's coming back for an official visit in the fall. So I think things are really trending in the right direction with Kenneth Grant. It's just going to be, can Michigan fend off an Ohio State run if they decide to make a big push? And then I think just getting in some of the top 2023 targets on campus. Dante Moore is expected on campus. Sorry, there's like a motorcycle flying by. Dante Moore is expected on campus this weekend. He's a guy that, is the crown jewel of next cycle. An elite quarterback recruit that can, really change the course of the program. He's been to Michigan, many times in the past, including for Detroit Day last month, but it's key for him to continue to get to know Michigan quarterbacks coach Matt Weiss. He already has a strong relationship with Ron Bellamy. They've known each other for a long time, actually since Dante was playing Little League football. So the bonds are there, but kind of with him as well. Ohio State jumped in the mix last month, and that's a big offer for him. He's originally from Ohio, so that's going to be one to watch. Another big-time 2023 recruit making his way to campus is Luke Mchenry, Rivals 100 offensive lineman out of Findlay, Ohio, which is actually right in between Columbus and Ann Arbor. So, he's not really a true, Ohio State kid, grew up really cheering for Ohio State. Michigan got him on campus last summer. They've offered his younger brother, 2025 quarterback Ryan Montgomery. So I think all that is definitely playing in Michigan's favor, and they're legitimate contenders with Luke Montgomery as well. So, yeah, those are some of the things I'm going to be watching. And then I would say last thing would be just the commits coming together to bond with each other again. You have guys like Will Johnson, Cody Jones, Connor Jones, all coming along. And then the last guy I left out when talking about storylines, we definitely have to hit on Rivals 100 offensive lineman Josh Connolly. Not a commit, a big target, one of the more important targets of this cycle, is expected to make his way to campus. He's also expected to be back for the game against Washington. I think Washington's the favorite to keep him close to home, but Michigan's definitely making a strong push there.
Yeah, and if Michigan beats Washington, obviously on September 11th, that would help there. Do you expect, let's say Dion Walker, they do close with him. Would you expect an announcement to come soon? I know he's kind of wavered a little bit on when he wants to commit. I remember I talked to him a few months ago, and he said definitely signing day, no earlier. Probably announce at some sort of ceremony or something like that, or even one of the All-Star games. And then it was like, yeah, maybe in the fall, at some point. And then it was like, oh, maybe before the fall. Possibly. There's only 1 month, I guess, really before you consider it fall, especially in the football world. When do you see his timeline kind of playing out?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a chance he goes ahead and just pulls the trigger now and just commits before the season. Like I said, I think Michigan has done a really nice job with him, and I don't see any reason why he would continue to wait if that's the school that's really, on top by a large margin.
So interesting. Definitely something to watch coming out of the weekend, but definitely plenty of storylines to watch for the barbecue at the Big House. And then, EJ, let's shift gears a little bit to your swing through Detroit last week, getting to see Will Johnson. You got to see Dante Moore, who you talked about just a second ago. You were able to see, I believe, Dion Walker, right, as well. So just talk about that, what you saw, and then we got some video of these guys for the YouTube viewers as well to take a look at some kind of insider type stuff here with their private workout.
Yeah, I did get a chance to hang out with Will Johnson. He, I think feels a lot better about his commitment following his June visit. And, like we just said, he'll be back on campus this weekend for another unofficial visit for the barbecue. He'll be back during the season for an official visit. And I think right now things stand really well with Will. As you can see in the video, he's looking good. He kind of trimmed down to 180, but it's all muscle. And I think he's going to build back his weight. He's a legitimate 6'2.5". So, Will is as advertised and looking good as he prepares for his senior season and to enroll early in January. And then you had Dante Moore, who, like I just mentioned, is one of the big time recruits in 2023. I think he's a guy that may end up being a 5-star. He's ranked number 30 overall in the country right now. There's so much to like about Dante Moore. Super accurate, great ball placement, works with former Michigan quarterback Devin Gardner. So I was impressed with his workout. And, like I said, Michigan, Ohio State seem to be the teams right now, but he really likes Notre Dame, just coming off a visit there, as well as Michigan State, which he also hopes to see this week. I made my way to Cass Tech as well. I had a chance to see Dion Walker. We've already talked a ton about Dion Walker, so I won't spend too much time on him, but he's a mammoth 340-pound prospect. With Dion, I think it's just about body development, shedding some of that bad weight and building it back up. Right now, he's still carrying some of that, but he's just really, really improved a ton over the last year, and I think his upside is tremendous. And he's going to be at the barbecue along with teammate Jalen Thompson, a 4-star prospect in the class of 2023, one of the top in-state prospects for next cycle. I think Michigan and Michigan State have an early advantage there, so we'll see if Michigan can really move the needle on the barbecue. And then Dylan Tatum, who has been really keeping his recruitment quiet, 4-star athlete in the 2022 class that Michigan's prioritizing at safety out of West Bloomfield, obviously has a strong connection with Ron Bellamy, but loves that Michigan State has made him a top overall priority. So those two schools in a heated battle right now. Tatum wants to see both before he heads off to Houston this weekend for the Junior Olympics, and then wants to make a decision in August. Right now, I just feel like he's really, really torn. So we'll see, how things kind of play out with Dylan.
Yeah, that's been one of those recruitments that continues to, people are kind of just waiting on him to make a decision. And you've said it before, 50-50 almost seems like the safe bet at this point. The last thing that we have to cover is going to be Devante Miles, 3-star defensive tackle out of River Rouge. Mentioned him at the top. Decommitted. Seems like kind of a mutual decision. What are your insights there? So kind of a little bit of background, for the people that don't exactly remember when he committed. He committed December 18th of last year. It was 4 days later that Don Brown was let go as Michigan's defensive coordinator. Then, a couple weeks later, they hire Mike McDonald as D coordinator. So he committed to Don Brown and Michigan. Not necessarily the new staff, although they kept him in the fold for a while. But it just seemed like kind of the timing was right for him to reopen things at this point and look elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was just more of a mutual decision. I think, right now Michigan wanted to look in some other directions. They've changed defensive schemes and philosophies and are recruiting a different type of player along the defensive line. The Michigan staff had a chance to see Devante live at its satellite camp in Big Rapids, so they got an updated in-person eval. And like I said, I think the writing's been on the wall for a while, and I think both parties decided to mutually move on, and I think it's completely fine. Look, there's some big defensive tackles on the board right now. Michigan's already got a couple of guys on the board or on the boat as well. So I think right now, losing Miles isn't much of a loss. We kind of expected that. I think the more interesting storyline there is how will it affect, ties and connections at River Rouge. They have a big 2024 recruit in Nick Marsh at wide receiver, who is an elite level talent. So we'll see if that has any, effect there, any negative effect there. But as it stands with Miles, I don't think it's too much of a loss. This is one of those things like it happened with Tyler Martin earlier this cycle. They just, wasn't the right defensive scheme fit. And so they decided to look in another direction. I think with Miles, they wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt with him being an in-state kid, but I just don't think it worked out for either party.
Do you think part of it, too, was the fact that on December 18th of last year, Michigan didn't necessarily look all that great, when it comes to the future of defensive tackles? Then they closed really well in the end of the 2021 class with Rayshawn Benny, George Rooks, and Ike Awuna. And then, they seem to be off to a good start. We talked a lot about Dion Walker as well, where they stand with him, Kenneth Grant, other guys. Do you think that, played a little bit of a factor?
Yeah, I do. I think it did play a factor. I think, they feel pretty happy with what they got last cycle with the guys you mentioned. They feel pretty good about where they stand with some of the guys in this cycle, and with the defensive scheme change, like I said, they made an updated eval. They went out and saw him in Big Rapids, so it was just one of those things where it just didn't work out. But Rivals always does those like sting factor things. I would say that with Devante Miles, it's really a 0 just because it was a mutual decision, so not much of a loss there.
Yep, definitely. Well, follow us around the clock at thewolverine.com. We're going to have a ton of coverage from the barbecue at the Big House this weekend, so stay tuned for that. You can use the promo code BLUE60 for instant access to all those premium articles there with the 60-day free trial. And we'll see you next time.